I mean, look at me. I'm an Indian. But I've been doing New Orleans food for all my life.
Today I have the pleasure of introducing you to one of my friends whom I've known for not a long time. I don't know him really well, so I'm going to get to know him as you get to know him as well. He's had one of the best restaurants in Tokyo for several years, and he's going to tell you the rest of his story. So without any further ado, let's meet Sohan.
Hello. What do you do after an intro like this, my
Okay, so first of all, let's talk about, now I know you're Indian ethnically.
Yeah.
But where were you born?
Well, I grew up in the South, in the U.S. And
You were born in the South?
Yes, I was. Came back to India for a few years.
So tell me this, while you went to school, do you have siblings?
Yes, I have a younger sister.
How many years difference?
About 7.
So did you guys didn't grow up so close?
Well, we did. We lost our father very early when I was about 15. So she's always looked up at me.
Okay, right,
Yeah.
right.
So we're pretty close, yeah. I never thought I would be moving to India,
And
and
you
now
did.
I'm there.
But you're in the Hawaii of India.
Yes, I am.
That's
Goa
really different.
is spectacular. It's
Yes.
not like the rest of India.
I would imagine
It is
so.
beautiful.
And is it really kind of gated as well? I mean, protected, well protected?
It is pretty well protected.
That's what I think
Yeah,
so.
it is. It is. But you know what? A lot of people don't figure out is Goa is not a city; it's a state.
Okay.
It's the smallest state in India, but
India.
it is a state.
A state, right.
Yeah, and so you know, it's got one airport, but about 5 or 6 different cities
Right.
and stuff. And it's like it's a narrow state which is has a long coastline.
Mm-hmm.
It's on thing, and it has a very interesting history.
Right.
How would I say? Well, rest of India for almost 200 years was a British colony.
Right, but Goa
except Goa was Portuguese. They were
that
the
was
Portuguese.
the only place in India. The only place in
That was
India
the only place in India which was a Portuguese colony. And India got its independence, I think, in the late 40s or mid 40s.
Mm-hmm.
But Goa didn't become independent till mid 60s.
Still held by the Portuguese.
Yes, it was held by Portuguese and negotiated, and they finally got their independence. So if you come to Goa, it's a very different vibe.
Than the rest of India.
Most of India, because I would say the largest population in Goa is Catholics. Sunday morning is like the South. The church bells are ringing.
Right.
All the big, huge, dark-colored mamas
Really?
are there in their finest with their kids. No, it is.
But these are Indians, of course.
They are all Indians. But their last names are
Where-
D'Souza, Braganza.
Where's your family from? On your father's
We are
side?
Sikhs.
Sikhs from what side? Where?
North.
North, okay.
The guys who wear turbans.
Yes, right.
Yeah. So we're Sikhs.
Your
but-
mother as well?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
But they are Sikhs who were born and raised in Mumbai, which is a very cosmopolitan city.
Used to be Bombay.
Bombay. That's right. Yeah. I still.
You still? No, you don't. You
No,
better
but
not.
I have to now that I lived there.
You call it Bombay? No, you don't.
I used to always call it Bombay till I moved back now,
Now you
and
know-
nobody understands
That's
me.
right. They don't know what you're talking
Yeah,
about. Unless
but-
they're of a certain age.
And this whole nationalist thing was so bizarre because I was living in Japan when they changed their name from Mumbai. That's from Bombay, to Mumbai.
right.
So those were the days of, not emails but letters we used
Right,
to.
of course.
Yes, I wrote this letter and it comes back to me, address unknown. So I'm checking my address book. But I had written Bombay.
That's right.
And the post office sent it back.
Now, your father, what kind of work
Yeah,
did he do?
he was a journalist with
He was a
Reuters.
journalist,
Yeah,
okay. And your mother was at home?
a housewife.
Okay.
She looked good. She looked pretty. That's why I think my dad married her.
And your father's a Sikh.
He's Sikh, yeah,
course.
and she's a Sikh too.
Was he practicing?
Yes, he had a turban on. That made it very strange.
And he never, so he didn't show his hair ever?
No, not really.
He had the beard?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
everything? So you were close with him. He died when you were 15, so that means you grew up very close with him.
Yeah, I never had a drink with him.
You always knew you wanted to become a cook? Or
Yes,
what?
I did.
Why?
Even as a kid, I used to cook a lot, and
Your mother instilled this
Yeah,
in you, or your father?
no, it was just like I don't know. I had a flair for it. So when friends would get together, and you'd like you're getting the sodas, you're getting the whiskey, and so on. You're cooking.
Right. Okay.
Whatever we'd be doing. Somebody's parents had gone away for a week, and so we were having a party there, and I'm in charge of the kitchen.
So what were the dishes that you came out with that people thought, wow?
When you're much younger, you just like trying to do things within your budget and the biggest bang you can get for your buck. So you get some meat, ground meat, and put in some beans in it and make it real spicy and have it with rice. I never knew that there was a dish called red beans and rice till and it was interesting too because my mom used to cook a lot of Indian food.
Right.
And
which would be
when you're curries and but when you're a kid, you really don't know the difference in food.
Right. You
like
don't know what it's called.
This is American or Chinese. Food is food.
Right.
Your mom cooks it and it's food. Like what are these noodles? You don't know if they're noodles or spaghetti or so it's only slowly you grow up. You eat out and you come to know the difference. But I did want to cook, and I got my culinary degree, and I started working. That was my first job in New Orleans. So I think
straight out of college you got into how'd that happen?
When you do a culinary degree, it's like any other professional degree. But by your second year, you already have recruiters
coming and looking for
you and giving you but you never know. So like Hilton's a big company. I joined them, but I didn't know which property I was going to be put in.
And did you specialize in any type of foods? When you go into
culinary
school,
really. You just do everything. You just learn everything. But it's Western food, See, today, when I hear from young people and stuff, Japanese food has reached that point. Chinese, that even in culinary institutes in the U.S., you're learning that. But in our days, no. It was mainly European food,
Right.
And if you would call it what we called ethnic food was doing things like meatloaf would be ethnic,
Right, okay.
Burgers, mac and cheese,
okay.
which are also taught how to make a good mac and cheese.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But that was considered like, this is home food.
Okay,
but as a chef, you should know how to make a good mac and cheese.
Okay.
So today, when I talk to young people or I interview them for work and stuff, they learn things like making sushi and even in American
and stuff like that.
Yeah, because it's become so much a part of the world
because
cuisine.
it's a healthy.
It is also
too,
that.
times, right?
Yeah.
So
more than me, if I talk to you about food, which is so dear to my heart, it's so interesting because I remember many years ago, I think it must be about 15, 16 years ago or more, one of the English magazines in Tokyo, I knew the editor. She was a customer at my restaurant. She called me up and she said, Sohan, I'm doing like an article with 5 foreign chefs that are cooking in Tokyo. So, would you please, do that? And I said, sure. So she sat down and we talked about food and how I do things and stuff. I didn't know who the other 4 chefs were or what she just wanted to talk to me. And it was not about me or how I grew up, but how it is cooking in Tokyo.
Okay.
So I talked to her and I said, it's good because the customers are responsive, and me being a small restaurant and doing just one kind of food.
That was Bourbon Street?
Bourbon Street, where I was doing New Orleans food. So I said, I have the added benefit that the person coming to me is looking for New Orleans food, So I said, I just said that in a sentence. I said, chefs are talking about ingredients and stuff, but the people who come to me are not looking for ingredients, they're looking for flavor. You know, if someone's coming to my place, he wants a kick-ass jambalaya. He doesn't care where the bell peppers were grown or, you know, what it was. So I have that added benefit that as long as I can give them the right flavors, my clientele is happy.
But there's one other thing you had in Evangelist. You had no competition.
I did not. Yeah, I did not.
None.
But you also have to understand, Tokyo is a top-notch city for restaurants. There's like dime a dozen and good ones.
But
So you know, but so I did this interview, and when the magazine comes out, I see the other four chefs are like really big dudes. We had Joseph from the Grand Hyatt, and we had the Peninsula chef, and there was me, the New Orleans chef. And all the four chefs are talking about the best thing in Japan is about the quality of the ingredients. And I'm like,
You're saying it doesn't
yeah,
matter what the ingredients-
you know, these guys are going to beat me up because I'm the guy with the 24 seats. Well, they're looking at like, you know, 500,000 seats. And I'm the guy who's saying everything opposite to what they all said. So, you know, food is beautiful in this way. I mean, you look at me, I'm an Indian. But I've been doing New Orleans food for all my life. And I just met somebody who I knew a long time ago in Tokyo, and he's moved back to the US. He's got an inn in Maine, and he's got a restaurant which is very popular. So he tells me, he says, look, Sohan, I've been wanting to talk to you. I'm glad I just bumped into you. I said, yep, tell me. He says, I want you to come to Maine next summer and do like a week of New Orleans. I said, look, you know, think about this. You live in Maine, which is 2 hours away from New Orleans. You can get anyone from there. You're going to fly me in from Goa to the States to cook New Orleans food? This doesn't make sense. He said, no, I want your food, so I want you to come and do it. I want my boy to learn how to do things like you.
I think the thing that he probably sees that I think most people do, you know good ingredients. You're not going to compromise on your ingredients. I've had your food several times, and I can tell. It's the kind of food that you wish you knew how to make. You wish
But it's
because it's good, but all of its quality. Your rice is good. Any kind of meat you use is good. When you use seafood, it's excellent. It's really good food.
Say,
Do you think you learned that quality part in culinary school, or did you learn it from being in Japan?
I think Japan helped me a lot.
Okay.
Because, you know, Japan is so much more conscious about you know, quality of the ingredients.
And they'll tell
so
you.
that does make a lot of difference. And, you know, I do, as you said, I do like good ingredients, but I probably also have something more practical sense, you know, to balance the thing out. Like, for example, like I'm doing this pop-up at TAC. Now, one of the dishes I'm doing that in there is called Jazz Fest beef. Now, which is during Jazz Festival, out of the restaurants or food stall, they make this whole big cauldron of meat. It can be beef or it can be pork, depending on the stall. And they put a lot of vegetables. Now, when you go to New Orleans, it's the Holy Trinity: celery, onions, bell peppers. That's what they call it, the Holy Trinity. Yeah. So they put that all in and they cook it all up, and you know, they ladle it out on a paper plate, either with over rice or a big piece of cornbread. And everybody's fond of that. So I'm doing that here.
Are you going to do that on Sunday when I come?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be here Sunday, for sure. Me and one of my sons are coming, for sure.
So now when I was talking to Lindsay, who's the chef here, and so he says, you know, I give him a list of ingredients that I need him to get ready for me. So he says, you've asked for fresh bell peppers, but you've also asked for frozen bell peppers. Why?
Okay.
You know?
Right.
So I said, see, the beef dish where the flavors of the bell peppers matter, all the vegetables are going to be fresh. But jambalaya, which is going to be cooking for a long time. The sauce is a slow cooked sauce. I mean, it's been cooking from 10 o'clock yesterday morning till about 6. So any vegetables you put in, you know, it's not going to, you won't be able to taste the vegetable, but just the spices and the sauce. So why put fresh vegetables in there?
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's my practical side.
Right.
You know, and so one of the Japanese guys in the kitchen, and he says, I'm surprised a big chef like you is using frozen ingredients. And I said, there's nothing wrong with frozen ingredients. Right. You balance your meal out. Things that don't matter in that dish. Right. You save money on that, but get a better quality of andouille sausage. Because that's what the person is going to taste.
Right.
You know? So instead of putting in some Mexican chorizo or something, get a proper andouille sausage. Right. And so a lot of times chefs, I feel, get so involved in the aura, and then when they reach a certain position, although one part of their brain, practical part, says that you, but you know, they have a rep to protect now.
I see.
They can't, you know, they feel they can't.
And they do things that they wouldn't practically do if they didn't have that rep to protect.
Yeah.
I hear
so, you know.
That's interesting. That's
it is. You know, food is so interesting. Now, I'll tell you this, and when I found out about this, and it was so, like, I was like, really? Imagine how food travels. Okra, you know, okra. Now, apparently, United States did not grow any okra. They did not have any okra. The okra was brought into the U.S. by the African slaves.
Okay.
Because it's a major part of their diet. They use, in Africa, okra is not used just as a vegetable, but it's also used as a thickening agent.
Right.
Stews, soups are not thickened by cornmeal or cornstarch. They use okra. Right. Because the sliminess of that thickens it up. And you know, what we hear, it was a generation before me, when these people were brought in slave ships, New Orleans, unfortunately, that's part of New Orleans history. Jackson Square was one of the,
ports, auction places.
Yes, auction places. And when these people were brought in, they were usually packed in a ship, naked, you know, no clothes. They're not going for a tour of America.
Right.
They got no.
Right.
So I believe the okra seeds were hidden in their hair.
Oh, that's interesting. That's
yes, that's so interesting, right? When you hear something
and
like
then
that. And they planted it there, and that's how okra grew.
That's interesting.
It is so, but you know, but that's what makes food so fascinating when you hear a small little thing like that, and it just, you know, gives you now gumbo. Very few, so very few people know, but gumbo is the African word for okra.
Is that right?
So when you're saying gumbo, you know, soup, what you're saying is okra soup. And that's what I mean, for the gumbo, what you'll have on Sunday is, I'm using okra to thicken that soup.
So, and tell me, when you first came to Japan, what brought you here?
I came here because you know, when you studied culinary, you want to widen your horizons, you want to know more, you study. And most of my colleagues or my peers or people that I had studied with, my friend, we're all heading to Europe. That's what everyone does. You know, you come out and you've already got like an internship, you work for a year, 2 years, make some money, and then you go to France, Belgium, Italy, because you want to know more about food and how it's cooked. So because everyone was going there, I did not want to. And I was like, where should I go? And Japan sounded exotic.
Now, how old were you at that time? Were you 21?
24, 23, 4, I think
24,
about.
okay.
Yeah, 24.
Now, you weren't married, nothing like that?
Nothing like that.
Okay.
But I'd had a Japanese girlfriend. Which,
Prior to that?
Yeah, around about that for just a few months. But she was not even really Japanese. She was like living in the U.S.
Did that help to spark your interest?
Yeah, that did. I see, the girls are beautiful, and it's something that we don't know, and it's interesting and exotic. Why not? And I came with the idea of 2 years in Japan.
Now, would you come to Tokyo?
To Tokyo itself.
And on your own?
On my own, yeah.
So what'd you do when you got here?
Well, I had a job with the Hilton.
Oh, so you came here with the Hilton?
Yeah, with the Hilton. I applied for a position with their
Okay.
hotel in Tokyo, which used to be where now Capital Tokyo, Akasaka.
Right.
That used to be the Hilton.
That's right, it did.
Yeah, before Shinjuku
Right.
Hilton
What
opened.
year did you come here?
I think it was 86,
86, that was the
yeah.
year that I got married here.
So I was there for a couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
and a Japanese guy who was, what was it called, the restaurant? I can't remember names, I'm getting old. But one of the places, and this guy started speaking to me and talked to me. And he was like the vice president, butcher or something, of a company that had members resorts, 4 or 5 of them in Okinawa, Karizawa, Yamanaka Ko, which is down Mount Fuji. So, he said, would you like to come and work there? And I'm like, no, I don't know.
You understand the city?
Yeah.
You understand the city?
Yeah, I wanted to because language was a big problem. People, in those days, there was not much English spoken.
And you weren't trying, did you ever get a real interest in speaking Japanese?
But the first 2 years, I'm, learning. You date.
Right.
You're surrounded by Japanese in the kitchen. If you don't say the right words, you're going to get a hot frying pan in your hand.
Of course.
So you start learning important words. But it was, at that point, I never had this thing about that I want to get into Japanese culture
Right,
or
okay.
learn
You wouldn't belong or
Aikido
anything.
or anything like that. I was just into food.
Well, you weren't even into Japanese cuisine so much.
I didn't like it to start with.
Okay.
It's tough to eat raw fish and stuff like that. So this guy, I still remember him, Mombasho. So he said, when's your day off? And I said, Tuesday. So he says, can you give me your day off? I'll take you in my car to Yamanaka. Come and see the property. So he took me out there, and it was beautiful. It was a small property. They had like a Japanese restaurant, they had a French restaurant, they had a coffee shop, and it was right next to the lake. They had tennis courts and whatever and stuff. And I said, yeah, this looks really good. And then they had...
What about your quarters? Were you going to stay?
Yeah, they had staff accommodation. He showed me that. That looked pretty cool too. So I said, yes.
This is bubble time.
Yeah, much. Yeah, really bubble.
They were making any and everything.
Yes. So he offered me a good deal, and I said okay, and I joined the company.
For how long?
It was supposed to be for a year. I ended up working for them for 3 years.
Yeah. Was that good? Okay.
So when I first went to Yamanaka, I was the only non-Japanese person in the whole establishment. I don't even know it till today why he said come, but I don't know. He felt something, and he was very supportive. So I went there, and it was good because there was no English television, there was no English newspaper. So that was the point where my language skills seriously went up. 1, 2, we had really nice quarters, staff quarters. But I was still a very junior guy, so I didn't get a room to myself. I had a Japanese roommate, and who was crazy about rock and roll, Japanese rock and roll, and he'd have it on full blast in the room the whole time. And I was too scared to say anything because, I was the little guy. I'd just come in. So that sparked a little bit of interest in Japanese music. Okay. Slowly the whole thought of like trying to learn this this culture of this country that I'm in. And so that was the exciting part. But the horrible part was the food, because we had a cafeteria which was open 24 hours, and there was a separate chef who would cook for the staff. And you know, people were working in shifts, so somebody would be, so he'd make breakfast, and then at some point in the afternoon he'd make lunch, and there was a microwave. If you come in late, breakfast was like raw egg, miso shiro, rice, and a piece of fried fish. Damn, I'm not going to have that for breakfast. For, I think about, I don't know, 6 months, my best friends with a bottle of ketchup and mayonnaise and a bottle of Tabasco. Because, you know, you were out in the boondocks. The nearest convenience store was about 12 kilometers.
They didn't have a bunch of convenience stores yet.
No.
Right.
That was the difference, like being in the city. In the city, you could grab a McDonald's burger, or, you know, but we were out there. You wake up in the morning, hungover, and you see like a piece of fried fish in raw egg. I'm like, God, I'm going to throw up. Get the bottle of ketchup out, get the Tabasco out.
So you never got used to it?
It took me time. But I got used to it is because I had no other choice.
Right. You needed to eat.
I needed to eat. I lost a lot of weight at that time. And also, in my own kitchen, the restaurant that I worked for, I was too junior to be able to cook for myself. You know, the chef was a nice guy, and he'd take pity on me, and he'd say, you know, you want to make something for yourself for lunch or dinner, and, you know, I'd just like cook a piece of meat and season it and eat it. So that's where Yamanaka was that place where so funny enough, on this trip, about 2 weeks ago, I was in Kawaguchiko, and with this friend of mine we worked together, and we were sitting there over a drink and trying to calculate how long ago that was. And it was 35 years ago.
35 years
We're still friends. You know, he came for my wedding, I went for his wedding, we're still friends. And he owns 2 Italian restaurants now, one in Kawaguchiko and one in Kofu.
He's Japanese.
He's Japanese, totally Japanese. So we're sitting there and having a drink and trying to figure out how many years ago. No, that was 4 years before you got married. 35 years ago. That was, you know, different times. It was, you know, so the Japanese have always been, you know, all about face and stuff. So I think in my second year or something, the chef had been wanting to like leave, but the boss has always told him, no, you can't leave. So one day in the middle of the night, he packs his bags and just runs away. So suddenly from down there, I'm like midpoint, and the third year I'm the chef, with like hardly being able to speak Japanese, but you know, it just falls into place. We had a guy who was in charge of events and stuff like that, and he was a Japanese guy, but he had a beard, and you know, and he used to DJ and MC, and so, you know, this was old days in the summer when the hotel was packed and it was season time. Friday, Saturday nights in our restaurant after 10 o'clock for 2 hours would be disco time. You know, and
this is out of Yamanaka.
Yeah, out in Yamanaka.
Who was there? Who would be there?
The place was packed because
That's
this was
right.
a members resort. You know,
I forgot, and also it was a bubble time.
It was a bubble time. People would, they would just,
They had plenty of money.
Yes, they did, and they were spending.
right.
So this members resort, the members were small-time businessmen.
Right.
Like, you know, there were guys who had a hairdressing salon or a printing press. So it was fun time, but that was, I think, when I really, you know, Japan got to me.
That's when you said, "This is my home."
Yeah, this is interesting.
this.
I started, you know, understanding
And that
the
was
flavor.
4 years into it. 4 years into
Yeah,
being
I
there?
was about 4 years.
Took you 4 years.
Yeah, it took me about 4 years because at that time I was always. Prior to that, it was I'm leaving next year.
You never thought you'd go and live in India?
No, never.
Did you?
Never.
Wait.
But so there was 2 countries that I could walk into without having to do anything. One was the United States, and the other was India.
Wait. You don't have Japanese nationality?
No, I was a permanent resident.
Right.
And India welcomes you back and gives you an Indian
no matter
passport.
what.
No
As
matter what.
as long as you.
I think most countries do that.
Okay.
If you are, both your parents are.
Right, okay.
If you come
They're
back.
welcome you back.
So I knew I could just walk in. So, plus also, after living in Japan for so long, where I enjoyed the energy and the excitement, but part of my brain was telling me that all I need to do is like chill out, not run. Mm-hmm. In Tokyo, you have to keep running.
That's right.
Yeah, the rents, the living expenses. You make money, but you're still
gotta spend it.
Yeah, you got to keep running. You can't stay still. And a part of me said, I've got no responsibilities. I don't have to put any kids through school or college or anything. And why should I run? So it's like Japan is like you have to keep moving to stay afloat.
Right.
I did not want to stay afloat. I just wanted to lie down and take it easy.
Just float.
Yeah. And also part of my brain said like in the U.S. would be similar, like Japan, you'd have to do. So
plus you'd have stress. You'd have external stress. Just
exactly.
Being human there. It's different.
And whatever little money that I had at that point, I knew that would take me much longer in a cheaper country like India. It would give me more benefits till I felt like starting work again and stuff. So my initial 6 months in Goa was amazing.
Wait, what made you pick Goa? Now, had you been there before?
Yes, once. We had gone on our honeymoon there.
And you never forgot it?
Yeah, but it was all those connections. It's your honeymoon. I've been married only once, one wife. I loved my wife. I'm one of the few people who can say that. We had a great marriage, and so we went there and had a great honeymoon. 10 days in a resort, and barely every day we'd be eating breakfast and say, tomorrow we're going to hire a car and go and see some temples and churches. And we never did. We never did.
You enjoyed it that much?
Yeah, we did have it. So when it came to talk about India, for me to move to India, Goa, of course it was there in the memory because that connection was there with my wife. And so I, in fact, I sometimes look at, but I'm not that much of an idiot. I went for 2 weeks to Goa. I flew out of Japan. Yeah, just feel
with the thoughts that you might want to stay there.
No, I was like seriously stay there, but I want to feel the vibes. Like if I get bad, any bad feelings, just have a look at what the prices are. Like I didn't know anything. Like how much would it cost to rent a room for a month or, buy a car, secondhand car to move around and stuff like that. So I went for 2 weeks. It was fun. What I did was in that 2 weeks, I stayed at like 6 different places, like a big hotel, a small place, different parts of the state, just to, how it is, just get a feel. And then I decided, yes. And I decided to close Bourbon Street, and that was interesting.
That had to be hard.
Yeah, that was hard.
People did not want you to go. I bet they picked it out in front of you. You cannot go.
It was so funny because I remember when I made the announcement 6 months in advance that we are closing end of February. And the reservations started just coming in within a month. 6 months was full. But the thing that I just found so funny was the first day, I'm saying this in November or something that I'm closing in February. And the first day to get filled up is February 28th.
The day you're leaving.
Yeah, because everybody wanted to come on the last
goodbye,
day.
right.
When I said that's full, they would do 27th.
That's it. Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, it was.
I didn't think about that. You
Yeah,
think that
even I didn't think about it.
they wanted to say goodbye.
Yes, they wanted to be there. Like I was there on the last night of Bourbon Street. It's interesting, isn't
I
that?
had not thought about that.
Yeah, I hadn't
That
too.
makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, it was. And
Did you have anything special the last couple of days?
no,
did
it
what
was
you
just
do.
very emotional and
I can
stuff
imagine
because
so.
I was leaving.
can
So
imagine.
what had happened was in Japan, the first anniversary, the first death anniversary is very important.
Right, you can't
and
go through.
Yeah, so and for some, I still haven't understood it, but for some strange reason, it's done 11 months, not 12. The anniversary is not held on the day the person passes away, but a month before that. It's the 11th month and 11 days before.
Okay.
So my target for leaving Japan was that I'll finish that ceremony. So I had literally booked my tickets, got out of my house, moved into Oakwood for a month while the Nick Vassey's packers were doing my stuff. Yeah. And so I left literally, I don't know, 6 days after the bed. So I had made my schedule accordingly. So February, I'd close up and stuff. Last few days were kind of emotional and stuff, and you know, knock on wood, and I'm lucky. I've got such good friends and customers who became friends over the years and stuff. So it was good, yeah. And so I moved to Bombay, Mumbai, you know, trying to get my things sorted, like a driving license.
But knowing that you're going to go
Yeah, with
Okay.
the idea of Goa,
Okay.
but Goa is kind of rural.
Right. So they would
yeah,
have all the things you
yeah,
need
you got to
in Mumbai.
get your
I understand,
paperwork,
right.
change your, you know, get a bank account
okay.
and stuff like that.
You did
So I
that
got,
there
yeah, I
in
did
Mumbai.
that for 2 weeks, and then went to Goa, and I'd found this really beautiful place in that earlier trip that I made for 2 weeks. So it was this really lovely little guest house, maybe about 14 rooms, small pool, run by an Englishman with an Indian wife and their kids and his mother, Nana. Okay. And they ran this like bed and breakfast kind of a thing, and it was on an island.
Close by Goa.
Yeah, it's Goa. It comes
Right
under
off the
Goa,
beach?
but,
Okay,
but there's like a ferry,
right.
a 15-minute.
Ferry,
Yeah, there's no bridge.
Right.
You
and
have
he
to
has
ta-
the whole island.
No, he
just
just
a
has a
portion of
guest
it.
house on
On
that.
that island, okay.
Yeah, it's a small island,
Right.
and it doesn't have. Like, there's just two places to stay. One is his guest house, and one's a yoga retreat kind of a thing. So I met this guy because he was looking to sell this place, and somebody had, you know, said like, okay, you're looking for something in Goa, like, why don't? So I looked at the place, and no, I didn't want to buy that because it was too isolated and stuff like that. But I thought that would be a good place to stay, and they were nice people, that couple, and so I moved to Goa, and I moved in there, and I think I went through a couple of months of doing nothing, just getting drunk every day, because I was carrying a lot of emotional baggage, and in Japan, you're trying to, you know, finish your stuff, close your business, move your thing. You don't have time to grieve.
Right.
So I needed that to, you know, set balance. So I'd wake up in the morning, have breakfast, sit by the pool, drink beers the whole afternoon to like fall asleep, and then wake up in the evening and start drinking again. But it was good. They were nice, and then I got really friendly with the owners, and you know, I'd become a part of the furniture, and they said like, okay, you know, it's too difficult to keep up with your bar tab, so just buy a case of beer and put it in the fridge and drink it. Like, you know, we got, so then it moved on to, oh, get a bottle of rum and just keep it in the bar and drink it. And 3 months later, he comes to me, Jan, the guy's name, and Jan says, you know, we as a family, since we opened this bed and breakfast, you know, we've never been able to take a holiday together. So we want to go away for 2 weeks. Will you take care of the place for us? I'm like, really?
This is the English guy. with
Yeah,
the Indian
yeah.
wife. Okay.
So he said, we would charge you money, stay free, food, drinks, you know, instead of a salary. But just, I mean, there's people around, but somebody to just take charge.
Right.
Pay bills, collect money. I said, sure, go on. And, and that was like, when they left me in charge, that sort of started bringing me back. I couldn't be drunk. I had to be a little responsible. And, everyone knows it, but you just need something to bring you back. So they came back 2 weeks later. I hadn't burned down their guest house. Everything was okay. And then I thought, I should start looking at opening my own place again. And I have a Bourbon Street in Goa, and I'm still doing
not on the small island. It's on.
No. In the there's nothing to do on that small island.
So if someone comes to visit you,
yeah,
what would it be like? Where would they stay? Would they stay in his resort and then come
no,
the ferry 15 minutes across?
He's even gone now.
Okay.
Yeah, they sold out. Finally, they found someone who bought it, and he wanted his girls. He has 2 girls, and his girls were growing up, and he wanted them to go to college in England, right, and not in India. So that's why they were making their moves. But Goa it's got all the big hotels. It's got Marriott, Hyatt, Westin, W Hotel, the local bigwigs of India, Taj and the Oberoys.
How big is your place?
My restaurant? When I started in Goa,
okay,
I kept my restaurant very small.
Meaning how many seats?
12 seats.
12 seats, okay.
With an open kitchen,
right,
and me being the only person cooking.
Right.
So I had a small place with very nice, I did try to do the decorations as authentic of New Orleans, beads and posters. And inside I had stairs going up to the 2nd floor where I had just a bar. Okay. I had a proper bar counter, and I would have somebody with a guitar strumming the blues there on the weekends and stuff. So I had a good thing going, but then Corona was a game changer.
Wow.
Yeah, because in India, in Goa, for 2 years, I was probably open for 4 months. That was all.
And they were very strict about that.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, the population is huge. It was a very difficult time there. I mean, not difficult in I did not suffer as such. It was cool, but the rest of the when people ask me that, so did the Indian government pay some money to the small business? I said no, but we were not expecting, because there's so many people who live below the poverty line.
Right.
The government had their hands full with trying to feed them and look after them. So we were not even expecting anything. But what happened was that, as I said, for 2 years I was open only for about 4 months, and but I had to pay rent for the 2 years. I mean, not the whole amount. My landlord was kind of nice. I paid, but it was still money going out without money coming in. Right. So that sort of makes you think and change differently. And plus, my restaurant, because I was doing this kind of food, was again like a lot of foreigners. I had more, maybe 70% non-Indians than Indians, people who were there on holiday, And the fun part was, as I was talking to you earlier before we started, we get a lot of these foreigners from Europe, right, the UK, some Americans too, who are literally they're not there for a week or 5 days, they're there for 5 months. And it's interesting how their lifestyles are. Like this American couple, they spent 4 months in Goa, 4 months in the south of France, and 4 months in Texas. Yes. So the south of France is expensive, Goa is cheap, it balances their year out.
Right.
Yeah. So now this guy Brody's, they would, he'd send me a text message, we have arrived, same as last year, which means Thursday evening, 8:30, table for two every week. Because they're on holiday, they're not going to work or anything. Yeah, so they make their schedules. Every Thursday we're going for blackened fish. Tuesday we're going for curry. Wednesday we're going for pasta. They're not cooking at home or anything. Maybe. So we had a lot of these foreigners, which immediately, I didn't think I was anything, but what I'd learned in Japan, I was, as a restaurant, much more professional, cleaner, hygiene than the rest of the restaurants.
And how you service the people.
How you look after them.
Right.
Because of what I've been doing it. Yeah. So I'm not.
Had no competition.
Yeah, did not.
Right.
But the foreigners loved it, and some of the Indians did. The other Indians did not.
Right.
My kid eats only French fries. So I said, go to McDonald's. Can you not make some for them? I said, no. I could afford to stick to my.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it's not that I can't make French fries, but
I'm doing. I don't make French fries.
Yeah, I'm doing a concept. I'm doing a restaurant. So anyway, I had a lot of them, but then all that dried up because of Corona, and I got myself. I thought about it more, and I said, hey, I should. Involve myself in the local community a bit more. I can't be there and not
be a
part of it. So a good friend of mine, a local guy who had become a friend over the few years, he was basically one of my suppliers. He was supplying me with the canned and bottled groceries and stuff. And he had ancestral property, and he'd been telling me for a while, why don't you do something on my property? So now I got serious about it and talked to him. And so I relocated my restaurant. It's still called Bourbon Street, but last year I gave up that place, and a lot of my interiors, I just brought it out and put it in this new place.
More seats?
More seats there. Now I have a 40-seater restaurant.
40-seaters, quite a bit bigger.
And the most important thing for the locals is they want parking.
Right.
So now I have parking for about 20 cars, so which I didn't at all out there, because the tourists take a cab or get the hotel car to drop them, but the locals go out with families and stuff like that. So I talked to him seriously. So the most important thing for me first is that we are not paying rent. We own we as in both of us as partners, as the company we did. So we own the land, and that fear that Corona put into your mind is going to remain. So tomorrow, if I have to shut down for a year, I don't care.
Right, you have the land.
So we're not paying rent to anybody, and also, I did not want to, how do I say, integrate my food. I didn't want to do fusion with Cajun Indian thing, but I wanted to be accepted by the locals. So what I've done is my food remains the same. I haven't messed around with my food. It's still the same flavors and stuff. But the restaurant itself has a more Goan feel to it.
Okay.
So it's not air conditioned. It's open on all sides. I've got patio fields around. There's parking.
So they don't really like the air conditioning too much.
No, they do, but how it is that for a lot of them, they have come into an environment that they don't know anything about.
I understand.
That makes them a little uncomfortable.
I understand.
So it's that point that they have to cross, and when they have choice of 30 other places, why go someplace and be uncomfortable? So with the present place is, it's more, the place itself is going, but I've got, Aaron Neville posters and all that stuff.
You getting good reception now?
Yes, I'm getting much better.
How long have you been there?
Now it's been 9 years.
Are you welcoming all of us out to see you in Goa?
Yes, Please go. It's
Good.
great fun.
Now you heard that. He's welcomed all of us out, particularly me, so I can go to Goa and be with them.
There you go.
And have some good Cajun food.
Exactly. And, Goa's a paradise. It's the only place in India which actually has casinos. The legal
You can actually
gambling.
gamble.
You can actually gamble.
But what currency do you use?
Indian rupee.
Indian rupee.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay.
But it's strong. They've got gambling boats in Goa. People don't believe this. This is like the South.
It says Goa's the place to be.
Yeah, they got great seafood. They've also got a couple. It's not only with foreign tourists, but even with the local celebrities. The movie guys. Right. Bollywood is a big industry. The sports stars. They all come to Goa for the. Goa airport gets the maximum number of private jets on the weekend. Wow. Because they come in just for the weekend. Right. You party out. You've got big ass, DJs coming in and stuff. There was a party last year. I think last year November. I was shocked to see Snoop Dogg was playing. The rich Indians have money.
Oh, no,
they got tons of money.
There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about
Snoop
that.
Dogg was
there.
Yeah, was performing in Goa. Yeah.
For someone, wow.
Can you imagine? I never thought I'd see Snoop in Goa. So please come. It's still off the beaten track. It's still undiscovered, but it's not bad. There's a direct flight from Tokyo to Mumbai. It's 7 hours. ANA, good airline, 3 times a week. Yeah, I do that. And from Mumbai to Goa, remember, you can't say Bombay anymore, right?
Right, you can't. Mumbai.
Mumbai to Goa is a 50-minute flight.
50 minutes, oh.
Yeah.
Not even an hour.
Yeah, not even an hour. And there's like 10 flights a day, so it's all convenient.
Sohan, before I end this podcast, there's always a question I like to ask. If you could magically go back in time and meet the younger Sohan to give him advice after all the years you've lived and all your experiences, how old would he be and what advice would you give him?
I would go back to the Sohan of 25 years old when I'd just come to Japan. And I wish I had been a bit more serious about Japan and taken the trouble to go for some Japanese lessons, because one of my biggest regrets now is I speak the language fluent, I understand it, but I cannot read and write. Because you need to go to school for that. You can't pick it up. And at that, being that young and thinking you could climb mountains and cross seas, you never thought it was important to go to school. But I wish I would have gone to, even spent a year and learned basic hiragana, katakana, because that's the first thing now I did in India. I went to school for 3 years.
To learn Hindi?
Yeah.
Because you had done it before.
I didn't know how to read and write.
But you could speak?
Very little.
Okay.
But now I'm fluent.
That's it.
Yeah. I can curse my boys and I don't need to be physical with them. I can be verbal and get them to do things. But this was probably because I never did it in Japan.
Right.
So I wish I had. But how it is, I can still read beer and my own name and stuff.
The things you need to know, you can read.
Yeah, but now that I am living not in Japan, and I do miss, the only way I follow up on Japan is by reading the news and stuff like that, and I can't. Some of them I have to depend on the English interpretations of it.
Sohan, thank you so much.
Thank you, Lance. It was great. I'm sorry it's taken so long before I
that's
could
good.
do this.
You gave me more than enough to work with. I love this. I want to thank all of you for watching this podcast. Make sure you press like and subscribe. And never forget, it's all on loan, so continue to reach for the stars because you're too blessed to be stressed.